Hello readers, I'm the Avid Reader and today we're reviewing the Atlantropa Articles written by Cody Franklin in 2018, also known as Alternate History Hub. So an interesting fact about reading, I've read a lot of books over the last 2.5 years or so, about 150 or so I think now, and the interesting thing is that Alternate History Hub got me into alternate history kind of. So the reason I know Harry Turtledove is because of this author, who is also known as Alternative History Hub. So I'm very grateful to Cody Franklin or Alternative History Hub to introducing me to alternative history, and he is also one of the main reasons probably that I read a lot of books since I started my reading quest mostly in 2019 by reading Harry Turtledove. So does the Harry Turtledove fan hold up as an independent alternative history author? Let's find out. So the story is set thousands of years in the future and the Mediterranean Sea has been drained. So instead of World War II, the Nazis conquered Europe slowly but surely. They drained the Mediterranean through the Atlantropa dams, thus they generated millions of jobs and a lot of energy. But in the process, now the Mediterranean has no water and you have these freighters who are traveling these large places of sand and salt known as the kiln. And in this book we get the perspective of Captain Ansel, who is a captain of one of these freighters who travels through the kiln. He has been here for at least 8 years. Previously in a battle he has lost his hand in combat. You have these nests around this huge desert now where they go to refuel and things like that from time to time. And he had to retake one of these nests one time because it had been overrun by scavengers. So these freighters and these soldiers, they fight against scavengers regularly, so that's what they're doing in the kiln. So they transport resources to the different peoples and they also fight against scavengers, who are called Jews here in this book kind of, but they're not really Jewish as we'll find out later. And before I continue further on, by the way, there's gonna be spoilers in this review and maybe some violent discussion, since this book is quite dark and you really get to see the sadistic nature of the Nazis in this book, and this is thousands of years in the future. So the novel starts out with Ansel hurting a German prostitute, an Aryan, and his brother Ulrich, who is an SS knight, does not approve of this. So Ulrich is kind of this intellectual, while Ansel is someone who just enjoys to fight and kill and things like that. So you have true contrasting personalities kind of, the intellectual and the soldier. So Ulrich is going to accompany Ansel on this freighter trip in the kiln, and they get on this ship, which isn't really a ship as there are treads. So it is a mix of a ship and a tank. Since there's no water, it looks kind of like a ship except with the tank tread parts. And they have to wear this big armor, otherwise they would be killed by the heat quite quickly within an hour, and it would be very painful. So these brothers argue from time to time. They are traveling, they get into a fight with one of these scavenger ships, and their ship takes a little bit of damage but no one is killed. So they send out a camel freighter to capture these people and they take them back, and you see how bloodthirsty the crew is here. They want to kill them slowly, hurt them badly. They enjoy crushing things, and it's a bit gory, this book sometimes, the scenes, so you're kind of disgusted against these characters that you're following, and Ulrich is clearly uncomfortable with this. But one of them actually speaks German, oddly enough, so Ulrich decides to take him and question him and things like that. The other ones are killed brutally. One is killed very slowly in graphic detail, another one is killed quite quickly. And there is a thing called sanding, where they throw people overboard and they let them hang, being pulled against the sand and slowly dying. So you get to see the cruelty here of futuristic Nazis. And after this, you have Ulrich, who is questioning the prisoner, and the prisoner states that he's not a Jew. And through what he's saying, the reader understands, but not the narrator, that this guy is a Christian, and that these Muslims in the Arab world order them around on scavenger hunts. And you learn that while the dams have been very good for Europe, it has been horrible for the Arab world and has caused a lot of suffering, war and misery. So this is why they steal from the Germanic people, or the Aryans as they're called here usually, because they have no other choice. And you can see that Ulrich is kind of developing some empathy. So Ulrich really believed in the Nazi cause, while Ansel just enjoyed the kill. But he starts to slowly but surely question things, Ulrich, now. And Ansel doesn't like him talking with this guy. And there's another scavenger ship that attacks them, and it kills a few crewmates. And Ulrich wants the right to drop this Aegir drop thing, which will destroy their enemies quickly, but Ansel really believes to fighting head to head, and this kills some of the crewmates needlessly, including an officer called Witzel. The consequence of this is their freighter is damaged, so now they have to send out a camel to get help to bring the ship to one of the nests. So Ansel brings Ulrich along to do this alone, as Ulrich is afraid that he's going to get hurt by the crewmates or something like that, and you will see his suspicions are creepily correct in the end of the book. And their camel hits some mine or thing like that, but it doesn't blow up, but they're hurt, they lose their helmets, they have to put them back on quickly, and now they have to track the big sand things by foot and get to the nest. And on their way they discover a ship. Ulrich wants to go explore it. It's very old, hundreds of years old, probably, maybe more. And Ansel doesn't really want to, but he acquiesces, and Ansel finds an old copy of My Struggle, Hitler's Mein Kampf. So you see that there are actually two different editions in this book. The official version, where Hitler is an Aryan blonde guy, and on this older version picture, he is as he is in real life actually, which is dark hair. So they start questioning things. How come all these Nazi leaders aren't blonde, blue-eyed people? They're all pretty much dark hair. And they find the skeletons of some Jews and guards and things like that. So they start questioning things a lot. And Ulrich is a lot more open-minded to question the existence, while Ansel doesn't like this at all. He serves the Reich and he will follow orders. It's not his duty to question things. While Ulrich is the intellectual, so he doesn't mind doing this. But they move on. They reach the nest eventually. There is a Folkwanger freighter thing that picks them up and brings the other freighter back to the nest, and they get to rest. Ulrich stays close in the room for a long time, and First Officer Volker tells Ansel that there may be a mutiny against Ulrich to kill him, since they think that he delayed the Ager drop and they don't like that he has kept a prisoner alive so long. So Ansel's solution is that Ulrich proves his loyalty to the Reich and the crew by killing the prisoner. And he seems to convince Ulrich to do this, and it is announced 2 days in advance. The crew is happy with this. They come to watch the killing. Ansel hands his own gun to Ulrich, and Ulrich pulls up the gun to kill the prisoner. The prisoner looks questioningly. You can see that Ulrich has developed some empathy. He stays there with the gun pointed for a couple minutes, then he brings it down, which angers the crew, and they start attacking him. He kills a couple crewmates, and then they overwhelm him. Ansel lets all of this happen, and he starts thinking if this is his own fault or Ulrich's fault. And Ansel comes to the conclusion in his head that it's his own fault. And you have the crew that's taking Ulrich away. You have First Officer Volker asking Ansel if he should try to stop this. Ansel just says no, he's just going to let this happen. He stops the prisoner from grabbing the gun that's been dropped and kills him quickly with a bullet to the head, with the prisoner having accepted his fate. And Ansel goes along to watch Ulrich get killed by these crewmates, and they hurt him badly. They punch him many times, his helmet is knocked off, they hurt him, punch him hardly in the head. You can see that one of his eyes are closed, the damage, and Ulrich states that Ansel knows what he's seen, and Ansel denies this kind of, or that it's not important, anything like that. And they decide, I think, to send Ulrich, and they throw him overboard. So Ansel kind of psychotically let his own brother get killed for a greater Reich. So now Ulrich is dead, and you have Ansel reflecting on this kind of, and he blamed himself for the death of Ulrich, but it's kind of Ulrich's fault also for the death, for questioning things like that, and he shouldn't have brought along Ulrich to this expedition thing. And that's how the book ends. So how would I rate the Atlantropa Articles? I would give it an 8 out of 10, and it's a strong 8. It's a good alternative history book. It's not an amazing or great alternative history book. Harry Turtlelove has written several better alternative history books, but he has written also not as good alternative history books as Cody Franklin. So Cody Franklin ranks somewhere in the middle of alternative history books I've read so far, and I've read a couple dozen. It's definitely better than The Man in the High Castle. So the book Alternative History Hub, or Cody Franklin, is inspired by. He actually wrote a better version of it, I would say. And I think also the Mediterranean was drained in that book. But this is an intriguing novel. The first few dozen pages aren't that good, I would say. It's kind of a slow build-up, but after the first third, it's quite a good book and interesting, and you get to understand the brutality of the Nazis and this culture where they're not questioning things. And it's interesting to see Ulrich the intellectual starting to question things, and he pays with his life for it. And he dies believing in what is right, while Ansel continues his life being a loyal servant to the Reich. So it's a good book, 8 out of 10. So Cody Franklin, Alternative History Hub. Thank you for introducing me to alternative history and reading, kind of. And you're a good author, so he wrote a sequel, I think, to this, and I hope he writes more alternative history books. It's interesting to see a YouTuber writing a good book, and I think that's a thing that should be emulated. Anyways, this was the Avid Reader's review of the Atlantropa Articles written by Cody Franklin in 2018. It got an 8 out of 10. I hope you readers enjoyed this book review, and I will see you readers next time.